Okay, so part 2 of our hull construction. So you should have left this overnight, or as long as your glue needs. Make sure all these ribs are real nice and tight. Glue's gone off, not a problem there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to curve this front piece over to form the bow of the hull. So we're going to have to heat this area here, and then we're going to bend it over, and once we've formed it, then we'll glue it. So it's a bit of a two-stage. So when we push it down, we're going to be pushing down on the back here, and if you imagine here is the table, we'll be pushing it straight down onto the table. So more or less like that. Don't do it without heat, it will just snap off. We've had to make this quite thin in order for it to bend. A hairdryer is good, or a heat gun on low heat. Don't try it with high heat, you'll make a puddle. Alright, so we'll give that a go so you can see what I'm talking about. So down flat on the table, and we push it up like that. So I'm pushing down with this hand towards the bottom of the hull, and I'm pushing down towards the table with my top hand. What we're aiming for is the tips of these formers to be up against the curve of the hull. And we'll just hold it here till that cools down. Now when you release it, will spring back a bit, as you can see there. It sort of sprung back a bit, but we have formed the curve. It will go back there nice and easy. Alright. So now we've got it formed. We can pull that up. So we're going to have 4 long pieces of tape over each former that we will pull that up and tape it in place with. Don't be shy with your glue here. We'll glue right through here, both sides of these, and right through here. Trying to make sure that you get glue on the face of the former on that curve piece. Once again, we're going to push it the same way. If you need a hand doing this, grab the missus and we pull that up and fold that tape over the formers. Nice and tight. So you should end up with something looking like that. So that's our curve done. Now it will be sitting higher than the formers here, don't worry about that yet. We're going to leave that as long as we possibly can again to let that glue harden up and dry completely. So yeah, while we wait for that, we can move on to other bits and pieces. Okay, so here's the parts you'll need for the first part of the cabin. Got the front, back, two sides, and the roof panel. Now all we've got to do, same as before, is check all these parts. Make sure these tabs are all going to fit into their corresponding slots. So a little bit of filing again if need be. Sometimes these are spot on, sometimes they're a little bit tight. So we'll go ahead and get those fitted and come back. Okay, so everything's filed and fitted together now. Literally a couple of swipes on either side of the slots and everything just goes nicely in. Just make sure with your sides that you have got the film on the outside. If you're not sure, you can start at the tip here. Usually get it with a thumbnail. There you go. Just so you know which side has got the film on it. And same with that one. Usually this will be a bit smudgy. That one's a perfect example. Right, so we can do this in two phases, similar to how we did the deck. The deck we put the side railings on, and if you wanted to you could wait and then do your front and back railings. Same goes here, we can put the four walls together and wait and put the roof on, or we can do it all in one hit. Now a couple of things to be aware of. We do have very thin parts here, either side of these windows, and the top of this doorway is one that's caught me out once before, because you do put a bit of pressure on the sides here. If you put a bit too much, you will crack through here. So you can sort of see how this is going together. We have the front and backs slotting into the sides like so. The roof will go in between the two sides and on top of the front and back. So we'll get some masking tape ready to go, get our glue ready to go, and get into it. Okay, so when we glue these together, I like to start with the door here because it's the thinnest one, and I get it out of the way nice and early before I forget what I'm doing and snap it. So what I tend to do is we glue all the way down this back side of the inside of the side and inside this groove here, so that when we slot this on, all the glue once again pushes towards the inside. So we'll slot this on coming from the back towards the front of the cabin like that, and any excess glue will go down the inside, making a nice little bead that will help reinforce it, and also doesn't leave you with a big ugly mess to clean up later on the outside. So we'll do that on all four corners. So glue there, not quite to the top, and then glue in that groove. Then we take our piece and we'll slide that in there. Now take piece of tape, remember about this thin bit, don't go breaking that. We pull that tab nice and tight into that slot. Now we're trying to line this panel up flush on this edge of the side. If you're a little bit proud or a little bit under, you can put a piece of tape there if you like. Usually it's not required, the tab's usually holding it pretty well in place. Wouldn't hurt if you feel like you need it, or if it's a little bit gappy or anything like that. Throw a piece of tape on there, it's not going to hurt anything. So once again, tape on there, pull that over nice and solid, and tape it down. That should be sitting relatively square. Doesn't really matter at this point where it's sitting. So now we get the other side, and we glue those same points. Not quite to the top down there, a little bit on the bottom, and in that groove. And then we'll slide this, sliding it forward and then once again over the tab. And I'll put a second piece there across the window. Just watch the top of that door again. Right. Now it sits there quite nicely. So you can do that, do the grooves. This time, just because it's easier, we'll glue this. So again, we're just taping straight over where those tabs are, making sure everything's nice and snug. Now what we can do is, if you want to glue this in, I'll show you, but if you're not, this is how I leave them. I simply line it up on one side. That one's actually sitting perfectly square. Most of the time you'll end up with it sitting something like that. So you can see how it's sitting over on one side here. All we're going to do is just line that side up as well, and if you want to, just throw a couple of bits of tape on that just to hold it square, and we can leave it like that to set. If you want to do your roof at the same time, however, you think that's gone pretty well, we're going to glue along the two top edges, front and back, and then on the sides we're going to glue right along this inside edge, right inside this face, on both sides. So we run a bead of glue straight along there. Straight along here. Along the top and along the top at the back. Right, then we just put that roof in on one side, and you may just need to pull the side out a little bit through the window there to get it to sit in there nicely. And then with our tape, we're going to take the two ends first and then come back to the middle. So we want these ends, these points, to be nice and tight on that roof. So make sure it's nice and flush front and back. Pull that over nice and hard. And squeeze them together with these two. Pull it up. And same again on this side. Make sure it's nice and flush front and back. Squeeze it together with these two. Pull your tape tight, stick it down. Squish it together. Pull your tape tight. squish it down. Now where I stick this is right on the pillars, because it's got the most bite for your masking tape to hold on to. So put that on the pillar, pull it tight, stick it on. Don't worry about whether it's flush or whatnot just yet. It's easier to get your tape on and then move it around. Tape tends to hold it in place while you get it sitting perfect. Right, now fingers in through the windows, and we can slide that up, we'll push that roof up or down as need be to flush it up with the top edges of the sides right the way along. Alright, so there you go, everything's taped up, and we do the same as what we've done before. Leave that for as long as your glue stays, usually 12 to 24 hours, and we'll come back to that at a later stage.